Welcome to the Whiskey and Wisdom Podcast, coming to you from the Cargo District Recording Studios in Wilmington, North Carolina, where we discuss the most fascinating topics of life. I'm Tyler Yaw with my co-host, Chris Kellum, and each week we interview a special guest to learn how they acquired their wisdom over a glass of whiskey. So, sit back, pour yourself a glass, and enjoy Whiskey and Wisdom.
Welcome back. This week, we have on a guest that has been requested
Yes, sir.
a few different times just for being a great fella in the local community.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Robert Collins. I like thinking about him like, did I say his name right?
Yeah, luckily it's a pretty generic.
I was going to say, it's a pretty easy one this time.
Straightforward. Yeah, it gets exotic when you get to my middle name. It's S-E-A-N. So, that's always been a point of contention over the years when people want to micro-bully me about my name. It's like, it's okay.
Is it Sean like most other people or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, some people still have hang up about that. I don't get it.
That's how I thought Sean was spelled. And then I got older and people were like, no, it's spelled. I was like, bro, y'all are a little too much.
Added too many letters.
Yes, too many.
Chris is getting ahead of himself and taking the first step too soon, but hey, I won't complain.
Try a new thing. So we brought Robert on, and this week to mix it up, we actually brought on a rye whiskey to sip on because, Tyler loves his rye.
My favorite whiskey, bourbon.
We picked up, I did, the smooth Ambler Contradiction Rye, only because I saw it on TikTok and someone was like, this should be in your collection of everyday ryes. I'm like, sure, let's try it out. It's actually kind of cool. They're based out of West Virginia, and it's not a single malt. They actually blend it with a rye from Indiana and then two different ryes out of Tennessee to give you a nice blend. It's 105 proof, so a little bit higher than we're used to.
A little bit.
But it's pretty balanced. It's a pretty long finish. On the nose, you can smell a little nutmeg and strawberry.
Yeah.
You can definitely smell some of that berry when you're sniffing it. But has just a creamy, spicy palate, nice touch of mint and orange zest, and has a long finish of oak and cinnamon.
Very good description.
Very thorough.
Thank you. Some days I'm good. Do research.
Brought the knowledge today.
But yeah, let's set it up. Cheers.
Cheers. Love myself a rye.
It's definitely a rye.
It is.
Yeah. You can definitely taste the difference. Mm-hmm. Not in a bad way. It's definitely
a good way for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it always feels old-timey.
It does, yeah.
Peppery, and I just picture the old homestead drinking rye.
Yeah,
It seems like it would go well with being outdoors.
Yeah.
I like that.
Sitting on a rocking chair underneath the porch and drinking the rye.
If we had rocking chairs in here, I'd be in trouble.
I'd be asleep.
Yeah, right.
All right. So, Robert, tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of what you do and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah. Originally from Northeast, moved down to Greensboro in 95 or so. Mm-hmm. Loved it. Got a taste for the farm to table scene down there with Goat Lady Dairy, and, really got in touch with using fresh, high quality ingredients, kind of started the journey up from there, and then eventually ended up in Wilmington, worked a bunch of places, had fun with it, got burnt out on it. There's pretty much nothing else to really do. It wasn't fun anymore. Yeah. So that's not my thing, to do stuff that's not fun anymore, especially when it comes to food and something that you take the time to do. Yeah. It's hard just to bang it out after a while. So I've always been involved with farming and helping and, being involved with Meg Shelton and a lot of the local folks in the town that, did their wares and goods, and it just was always a scene that I liked. I always liked being out at the market, helping it, that way. I love that scene. Eventually, probably about 16 years ago, before I got out of it, I had a bakery downtown that started at the Riverfront Farmers Market.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Being Chris Hendricks, an old school Wilmington guy who's moved on, and we had fun with it. We went from there, opened up a place on Princess and Second, learned that you can't do a lot of stuff without machines these days to keep up. Mm-hmm. So we had a hard time with people wanting to spend $2 for a loaf of bread at Walmart. And this was 16 years ago when we were all organic, using local stuff, and people didn't understand why things were a little more expensive and what it was. So it was
a little ahead of the curve.
Yeah. So it was an experience, and Tidal Creek bought it, and they did something to it. I'm not sure, but it's not in business anymore. But, I've always liked that supporting local folks, So I pivoted into, not just cooking the food, but how to grow the food sustainably, kind of really took a look at it and challenged myself to start with a small plot and see what I could do with it, go from there and see what the results would be, after a year or two, just kind of see if this was something that's doable. Probably halfway through that, flow came through, and that was the end of that for the time being. Yeah. Being established and getting through it would have been tough. So just starting, and I just kind of, before I saw the writing on the wall, so I was like, all right, let me pivot one more time so I've done, opening grocery stores and retail side, and, get a quote unquote real job for a little while. And then, I decided once a couple of years ago, when everything kind of went sideways, I was like, this is the perfect time to really hone my skills and teach other folks and how to be self-reliant and how to do things and just where to start sometimes. Yeah. A lot of times it's people are just overwhelmed on where to start the process. And I understand it's tough. You overanalyze it. You want to do everything perfect. You read all the articles, the YouTube videos. You see, I got to do all, it's just like, sometimes you just need to step back and start at the beginning.
Definitely.
Just go from there. So, that's where I'm at now, kind of revamping it, trying to get everything working under the same names, all the social media, trying to get a new perspective on where I want to go with things and kind of reapproach it a little bit.
Yeah, my wife is very into the thought of homesteading right now too. Not that we have really the land for it right now, but definitely the thought of it, and the YouTube videos, to your point, that she watches, they're on step like 85,000. And they already have like the barn and like multiple cows and everything. And she's like, but I don't know how it starts, because they never show like the grind at the very beginning.
No, that's goes with most everything you see. You don't see the fail.
Exactly.
And, that's where those are the spaces where you learn.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Before we get too far into it, what part of Northeast are you from?
The coast of New Jersey.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm from PA myself. So
okay. Yeah, it was right just north of Point Pleasant's, probably the biggest.
Okay. Yeah.
So when I moved down here, it was, reminiscent of the area, but without some of the intenseness and people moving down from even, New York and stuff like that. And a lot of the land was being bought up, and some of the old spots were being built over, and it was just like, oh, this is disgusting. I need to get out of here. So ending up in Wilmington kind of made sense, because I do like the vibe, right? Like being semi-beachy. I like the little bit of a slow down pace,
definitely.
So it really spoke to me.
I like that, because as per usual, one of us knows a little bit about the guests, and the other knows nothing. I am the one who knows nothing, so I'm sure I could look this up. What's a homestead?
Well, I mean, like you see in the YouTube videos, there's definitely many stages and iterations of it. But basically, the general idea is to have a space where you can be self-sufficient in varying percentages. Like, can I sustain can I grow or produce half my meat and vegetables for the year? Can I, and then usually from there, you just kind of keep working at getting less and less involved in, having to go to stores, having to, you kind of keep making your own stuff, or you find folks that do stuff better than you, that you have stuff that you can trade with, barter with, stuff like that. You can sell your stuff to buy other stuff. It's, the basic kind of market system. But yeah, you're just trying to get to the point where you're comfortable and don't feel like you have to, buy everything, spend a lot of money on things. It's kind of a simplification of things. You can't homestead and have all the latest everything.
Yes.
You have to have expectations of, I got to step back. I need to say, okay, this is going to be our new base level of things, and you have to have, because all those things cost more money.
Right.
So the more shiny things you have, the more money you have to get, and the more you have to work, unless you are being self-reliant. So there's a balance in there. I like, obviously, some tech and music stuff and instruments, but you can't have everything you want all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So where did the passion from farm to table come from for you and being more self-reliant?
Well, it's always seemed like a very noble art or profession, and I give a lot of respect to those professions, the hands-on, the people that build and maintain things and produce things that are tangible. I think that's a really important thing. And it's, usually they're generally good people, those kind of people. And, I like to put my dollar vote towards somebody who's good, at the end of the day, and not give it to someone who I don't think is, that's how I, my dollars are spent ideally. And the product was, generally better, fresher. I could trace it back to the source,
right?
But it all comes with, you have to be a little bit fluid on your expectations. You order this many, maybe you had a heavy rain, so you can only get this many. So you can't, it goes back to you can't have everything you want all the time. You have to be willing to be flexible with your menu, know that just stuff happens sometimes. Yeah. And then you have to let your wait staff know. You got to let your clientele who are going to come there understand that things are limited. It's not a never ending bush that these are being produced from. So it's definitely you have to hedge your expectations sometimes when dealing with these people. And I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's trade-offs. So, I mean, I'm the same way too. So you said something that relates to me very well. And what I say as well is voting with your dollars. And any time that you have an opportunity to give your hard-earned money to one place or another, like knowing what the power is of that dollar to give it to someone local who put in their own like sweat and tears into that product, as opposed to a large conglomerate that's spraying all of their stuff all the time. Yeah. So, no, I'm glad you said that. It's something that's really important to me too.
Yeah, definitely. I think it, in theory and ideally, it causes more of a closed loop of money too. Yeah. Spend here, pay here, buy here, kind of keep it local. Ideally, obviously you can't, everything is not locally, but when you can do, right. When you can afford it, do what you can, you don't have to go overboard every week. No one expects, just when you can help out. And when you see something that's obviously going to be better for an extra 50 cents, it's okay. maybe eat 20% less and it'll be the same price.
Right. So where did the name Copper Farm come from?
It's Copper Sun.
Copper Sun. Sorry. Should get that right first time.
Yeah. Cause copper would just be boring.
Right.
It basically comes from where I'm at now. There's a time of day where when the sun sets, it's pretty much perfect over the patch, and it hits, magnolias, and you can see, and it's just whenever the sun hits a perfect angle, a certain time of day, it just looks like copper. Oh yeah. And I've always had a thing for suns and sun shapes and sun art, and so it just didn't want to overcomplicate it. So I was sitting there one day, and I like metals, I like wood, I like raw materials. Copper is say it's a kind of a healing metal. It's it's good for for a lot of things. So it just seemed like it makes sense. It was very literal. I was sitting there staring at a sun, and I was thinking, it's copper. Wait, hey, there's Copper Sun. Done. Right. That's cool. Yeah. Next song.
That was way easier. It took us weeks to figure out a name. Yeah. And then we got close, and then we almost changed it again.
Yep. We just stuck with it. We already had a logo.
Well, it's like I was in bands in high school, and that was the best part of the band, was trying to come up with the band name. Everybody had their list, and you would narrow it down. And
exactly.
With your new naming and rebranding, you're helping people better organize their land to prep for homesteading?
Yeah, just kind of help, at whatever level they want. I can be totally hands-on and help with installation. I can just be there to help get the process started, give some ideas, help out throughout the process for, questions. If there's a particular part of the homestead that they want help with, they're not comfortable with chickens or stuff like that, I can just come in and help build something and help design and implement it and kind of be with them, as far as communicating, if they have a question, if they have a concern, if, what is this, this is happening, what about this, and I can be there to kind of give my 2 cents, or if I don't know the answer to a question, help find the answer or lead them to a different source that might have a better answer. So, yeah.
This is a little bit off topic. I'm going to take Chris's role and ask a goofy question here real quick too.
Oh yeah.
So a few weeks ago, we brought on TJ Dunn, who owns quite a few goats. And I understand you have a goat.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Goat.
A goat. Does he have a name?
Her name is Penny.
Penny?
And she's really cool. And I'm hoping to have more at some point. I had another one who was older who came with her when I bought her. They kind of threw her in because she was old and they needed to free up some space. And so, but yeah, they're cool animals. They're interesting personalities.
That's what TJ was saying too. It's like they all kind of have their own personalities as well and everything, which is kind of cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they're very adjacent to dogs.
Okay.
As far as their interaction, because I have a Carolina and golden retriever mix that likes to run out there, and she just likes to be out there doing whatever, and she goes out there and plays with the goat, and she rears up and pretends like she's going to headbutt him, and then she give affection when people come outside. She'll call for people, come over and give her some rubs on her goatee and her head and stuff like that. So they have very nice characteristics of very loyal, kind of like a dog. When they see you, they get excited or they come over to you, and it's interesting. And they're fairly clean animals compared to if you had the rank animals. Probably rabbits being probably the most easiest animal to deal with because they're just instant compost. So, you can use their poop right away on your, feed it this way, and then fertilizer comes out the other way. So other animals you have to compost.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So and goats are good at eating a lot of things you don't want around too.
Yeah.
Cut down stuff, feed them to them, put them out there in a patch, and just let them clean it up a little bit for you, and then come back in and finish off. Yeah, it's fun.
That's neat. Kind of helps get some stuff done too that you weren't really wanting to do anyway, and they get to eat.
Yep, it's a win-win.
Yeah, it's perfect.
So when are you getting a goat?
I don't think my HOA will allow me to have a goat right now. So maybe when we buy the land to do the homestead that Jennifer wants, maybe at that point. My parents will probably have goats before I do.
Well, that's good. At least you can go out there and say hey and get used to them and
exactly, yeah,
get the feel for it and take care of it. But yeah, HOAs are not the friend of homesteaders.
No, not typically.
Yeah, and I'm the worst because I've seen homestead, like the name of it, but I didn't really know 100% about what it was. And then my wife, we moved into this neighborhood, and they're like, hey, you guys, here's what your sod is. Here's some grass, grow it. And that sent me down the trail of, why am I growing grass? Can't I grow like mushrooms or moss or something that's going to actually absorb the water in the location? And my wife's like, shut up.
That's not what the HOA said. We don't want to let her.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe in the backyard. I still don't have like half a patch of grass in my backyard.
If you put a big enough fence up, they won't know the difference.
Yes, but the HOA also says it has to be a certain height.
Just tall enough so they can see over it.
Right, yeah.
I laughed. It's like, man, I'm trying to figure out what plants I can plant like in my backyard and how to properly like manage that space because our friends gave us some like blueberries, which I'm pretty sure we've killed already, just because we don't know how to, like they gave them to us. I'm like, I don't know how to properly do it. And you're supposed to have like 2 different kinds or something. They gave us ginger, which has just flourished.
Yep.
I'm like,
great.
I don't know how I haven't killed that yet. In peppermint, regular mint. I think we got regular mint. And I think most of it is because I don't like mosquitoes, so I'm trying to get stuff that'll like keep bugs off. But now I have to figure out what the real edible plants will be.
Yeah. So actually, with that being said, since I'm sure most people that are listening to this podcast probably live in HOA, because it seems like all of Wilmington pretty much is like HOA owned at this point. What are a few good plants that you recommend, or just different things that you can grow kind of in a backyard that anyone can start doing to begin their homestead?
Probably the direction I would go would be containers and or something indoor.
Okay.
Get going, depending on how adventurous you are.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool tower designs, planters, if you want to get high tech, that you can grow, and it's all automatic, and you just plug your stuff in there, and you can grow salad, herbs, berries out of them, and they're just not a lot of mess, and low input as far as having to deal with it. If it's in a HOA or something that's got to kind of be there for a while, you're on the right direction with some sort of permaculture with blueberries or something, something like that. That's going to, you can keep kind of within the confines of not being too wild and still get some cool stuff out of it.
Yeah.
Doing some raised beds with strawberries is always a good reward for your input and the space you have. And if you're, a big salad person, or you just like greens, you can grow a crazy amount of mixed greens and salad greens in a very small area.
Oh, okay.
They kind of keep coming up if you plant them real dense, and you just kind of pick them when they're small. Like, you see in a salad, when a salad mix you buy in a box, and they'll regenerate a few times. So you can kind of they get little less, veracity as they get cut, but you can get, you don't need that much, when you think about how much salad you actually eat and how much it's only a couple ounces of salad. You put whatever stuff on top you want to do, but those things kind of, you get high nutritional output from it, from a little bit of space. And if you want to do, get even more nutrition packed into your space, doing kale and stuff like that obviously everybody knows about by now, but they're really easy to grow. You can cut them while they're small, and you get a very nutrient dense for square footage that you're putting back there. So that's kind of how I approach any space, is how can I get the most out of each square foot that's back here, as far as something I can eat, something I can, look at, like a nice flower that makes me happy, or a place where I can just have some quiet time. All three of those qualify for something that's being output by the garden. So if it's not food, it can just be, a tea garden in containers. It can be an outdoor place where you do your ginger and your tropical things. It can be an area where you sit and meditate or think for a little while, or have, it's just your space. And, that's just as important as putting food in your belly.
Right.
So it's sometimes it's food, sometimes it's not food. Sometimes the output's going to be peace of mind or beautification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing to produce right now then?
Right now, pretty much the time of year where I just give in and say I'm done gardening for a little bit.
Fair.
Because there's just too much. It's just, this time of year at this point in the world is probably one of the top 5 hardest places to grow anything.
Wow.
It is. Anybody in town that grows anything and can sustain it, I applaud them. And people should be paying twice as much for the produce this time of year, because it's brutal between either too much rain, not enough rain, wind, bugs, disease that love the humidity. It's just like, it's all out right now. So I use this time of year, I usually try to take a break, get things ready for the cooler weather, give the garden some time to stale bed a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of give it and then I'll go into, I love growing the greens. I love growing strawberries when they come back around.
Yeah. That's neat.
I mean, I love strawberries because I've always just been like, I like something simple, classic. Are strawberries one of those? I don't know enough about vegetation, but are they a quick turnaround, or are those something that you have to like nurture and nourish?
If you're lucky, you'll get some fruit the first year. But from what I planted, I'm sure there's other varieties that may put out more in the first year. But for the most part, it seemed like the second year plants seem to really have picked up steam, and probably the third year will probably be going into the peak, and then they'll start waning again. So it takes a second, but it's definitely worth the wait because there's few things better than going in the morning and popping out a strawberry and eating it or throwing it on your yogurt parfait or salad or whatever. It's just, it's like such a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You sit there and look at them and go, man, this is good.
And if I remember reading correctly, did you start a grocery store type of thing downtown?
Let's see. They might be the either the bakery, probably might be thinking about.
I think that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. And so that was a million years ago.
Oh yeah, that was one that you were saying was 16 years ago.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty amazing that you were kind of on that level 16 years ago, because that's not something that was popular until relatively recently. So what got you on the front end of it?
It was just something that me and my partner at the time were really into. He is way more a breadhead than I am.
Yeah.
And he started all the sourdoughs from local grapes and fruits and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
And it was something that we both had the attitude, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right.
Right.
We're not going to, we want it to be different on purpose. We didn't want to use mixes and stuff that was pre-bagged and you just add water to and throw in a machine. And because there's other folks in town that are doing that, and we couldn't compete with that.
Yeah.
So our thought was to, and I knew from me working in managing kitchens and stuff, a fair amount of ingredients that could be sourced local. Mm-hmm. So all right, well, these are all the ingredients we need right here.
Right.
And down to the flour and everything like that was all North Carolina organic product, and the honeys. And we didn't use a lot of refined sugars. And it just, what we were trying to do, we couldn't do with inferior product.
Yeah.
Hand shaping breads, letting them rise slowly, giving our sourdoughs something to eat. You can't give them crappy flour. Sourdough is not just it's just going to peter out and not be flavorful.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't, we never had any other thought. We were just like, no, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to be different.
Yeah.
We were way too different probably. And we probably could have used a machine or two in retrospect and maybe not be such the purist, but we did it how we wanted to. And at the end of the day, we made some really good damn bread that was, I have no problems with what we did. I'm proud of.
Yeah, that's awesome.
At least what we tried.
Yeah.
Right. That's really cool. I'm sure it tasted significantly better than anything you can really buy in a grocery store too.
Yeah. I mean, good fresh bread. I grew up, one of my jobs early on was working at a bakery up north.
Oh yeah.
So I got spoiled real early, 5 o'clock in the morning, fresh, pastries and breads and everything like that. So it's a special thing when you find something special that's made well and you're like, oh, this is a little bit different.
I think the closest that I've found in Wilmington so far, have you heard of Little Loaf?
Yeah, I've not been in yet.
Yeah, so she's building a place off of, I think, Wrightsville Ave maybe. And basically what she's going to do, so part of it's going to be a bakery and the other part is going to be kind of an education facility to help people learn how to make bread.
Read about this. Okay.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. So she had a pop-up that was right across the street from us here in the Cargo District. And I was going over to my parents. They're making dinner for my wife and I. And I was like, oh, here's some local bread. Let me pick this up. And I brought it over, not really thinking anything, just kind of before, voting with your dollars, buying local.
Yep.
Brought it home. And it was amazing bread. I haven't had that locally sourced bread in a while. And my parents kept raving about it for the next week. Yeah. And I was like, it really makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I love, one of the things I do like about food is the memories that it, kind of conjures up, and the smells and the, the sounds for me of being in different kitchens. And, it's a really cool way to tap into the past and kind of just bring up a memory of when you were a kid doing something with somebody and you're like, oh yeah, that takes me all the way back, 20 or 30 years. That's an incredible thing, I think.
That's cool. And I know before we started recording too, you were talking about working with Ash.
Yeah. I just started working on a little project at his new place, Origins. They have a side area off their eating, I guess, outdoor eating area. I mean, it's just kind of weird. It's like a void in the landscaping. It's just like a perfect little rectangle within the bushes next to the thing, and it's just kind of sitting there. So he was like, wanted to make it look nice and be something that the chefs could go out from time to time and snip some herbs or whatever was out there.
That's cool.
Just something that kind of extend the look of the restaurant a little bit out into that area and have something to, a nice conversation piece, something that people can talk about, walk into, and just, enjoy the added scenery that it'll bring.
Oh, that's really neat.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool too, to kind of, I haven't experienced that location yet, but I look forward to going in there, and that'd be cool to know if there was something that came straight out from right outside the doors.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a nice layout. It's a good sized place, and it's right there off, next to that Starbucks. So it's right there. I was almost drove past and I was like, oh, there it is. And then it's going to be fun. Yeah. I look forward to it.
So wait, where is this new one at?
Off of Eastwood Road by the new Starbucks. Do you not drive on Eastwood Road to get to work?
It's real new. It kind of just popped up.
Yeah. I think it's only 3 or 4 weeks old.
Yeah. It was like one day it was there, and the next day I was like, oh, it's there.
Yeah.
Building.
In that building.
Yeah.
There's a stoplight. It's across from that church.
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay. Sorry. I know places by going there, but I suck at, like, if you say, oh, hey, it's on Wrightsville Ave. I'm like,
yeah, I'm the same way.
Where? Like, he mentioned Wrightsville Ave, and I'm like, that is the longest road known
Right.
to
Yeah.
man.
That really doesn't mean anything. Yeah,
Because
you're right.
everyone's like, oh, yeah, I live off Wrightsville Avenue. I'm like,
What part?
Yeah. I'm like, are you on this side of College Road? Or are you on that side of College Road?
Or you 10 miles down the road.
Right. Exactly.
At least with like Oleander, I like know mostly. Like, if you say you're on Oleander, there's probably 2 stretches that you could be in.
Yeah.
But Wrightsville Ave, that just always gets me.
Another thing that I was reading about you too. So you worked with Feast Down East.
Yep.
And what exactly did you do for them, and what do they do?
They are a local food hub. So they take stuff that folks grow, and they work as the hub of the hub and spoke, where they can bring it there and then they deliver it to local restaurants.
Oh,
okay. They deal with the ordering and some of the paperwork side. That's really hard for farmers to do. It's tough just growing the food, and you have to go market it,
Right.
call people, get your pricing, so they help with some of that. And I was working with them for a little bit. My other part of my, I guess, it's a business, but the not-for-profit side is to start some sort of learning farm, just to kind of have an area in the city where mainly anybody, but mostly kids can kind of come and just be shown a new perspective on where things come from, how it's done, what it takes to get that lettuce on your plate or cucumber, And so I worked with Sarah Daniels, who's here in town, who does a lot of stuff, and she's great. She helped write a grant, and East Down East took it over and got it going. Then there was a little bit of, they had some change in management and some stuff happened, and with U.S. grants, if things aren't just so, it doesn't last. Mm-hmm. So things switched, and now I think the Arboretum, the extension's actually dealing with it. So they have a little bigger base and a little more folks over there that can help manage it and get it in the right direction. So I wish them, the best of luck, and the idea of it is desperately needed at this point.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can make that work, make it a great jumping off spot for young farmers to start, for younger farmers to learn, and for adults to go there and maybe just be re-educated or reintroduced to things that they, forgot about or didn't realize.
Yeah.
So, but I'll be doing kind of the same thing on a smaller scale, with the homestead, making it so it's accessible for folks. And I really like the idea of not so much being a farm that produces crops on a steady basis, but there's definitely stuff that's going to be growing. But I like the idea of like therapy gardens and art gardens and just spaces where people can go just to kind of get lost. Mm-hmm. There doesn't have to be an itinerary. There doesn't have to be this or that. If you want to bring people and have an itinerary and learn something, that's cool. If you just want to come and hang out and help, if you want to say hey to the animals, you want to, it's, just whatever it is, it's going to be. So that's kind of the other offshoot of kind of what I'm trying to establish, is just a learning space, whether that's how to grow, how to have more peace of mind, just have a different perspective on things.
Yeah.
Do some art, yoga, whatever you want to do.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that kind of perspective of it. And there's really nothing around that's like that, at least in this area.
Yeah, it's not around in many areas, which is probably the problem. There are a few really good folk in some of the bigger cities doing some cool stuff. So the movement is moving, but it needs to move faster and stronger to combat years and years of ignorant propaganda that's given to people. So it's going to take a big shock for things to kind of move a different direction, and overconsumption and, lack of nutrition and, knowing where things come from, just kind of the basic things that have kind of gone askew over time.
So when you said like the big shock, I think one of the big things for me and my family is my son is extremely allergic to a lot of things. And so that's an understatement. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so what we found out, and so we already tried to live like a relatively like clean type of food life and whatnot, like the best we could. And
yeah, sure.
It is what it was at that point. But with him and everything that he was allergic to, we found out it's a lot of the processed stuff. So just naturally by like him just breaking out and having these allergic reactions, we've had to start getting closer and closer and closer to the main source of our food and understanding where it comes from and understanding what corporations are doing to the food and why it's giving our son these reactions and stuff. And we're like, this is just the outward thing that's happening to him. So like what I was thinking after it is like, what's happening to the inside of me if this is happening to the outside of him with these reactions? And when I started eating closer to what he was eating, which was more natural than anything, lost weight, started feeling better. And it's amazing how the closer, go figure, right? I mean, the closer you get to Earth, the better that you're going to feel.
Yeah. No, there's zero doubt that probably most of the overly hyper issues we have with health has something to do with, the processing of things.
Right.
Whether it's chemicals for pesticides and herbicides, whether it's the food, whether it's the soil that's about dead at this point. It's crazy how the answer is just simply to stop messing with things.
Right. Yeah.
Just don't do anything and it'll get better.
Yeah. Let nature take its course.
But people have to manipulate and mold things and make it bigger, faster, stronger. They have to have it now. They have to have it for $1. They have to have it. That's just not sustainable. Not even close.
That was something I learned about recently too, is about how the soil's essentially being destroyed because of some of these places just planting the same exact things that are making it plant the same exact things. I didn't realize that there's seasons for a reason, right? And that it needs to be turned over with the different crops and everything to allow the nutrients to be in there to grow the most nutrient-packed food.
Yep.
Yeah, there's anything that's not from a local where your backyard is not nutrient, full at all anymore.
Yeah.
It just looks pretty and lasts long on the counter or on the shelves. So that's one of the positives to eating closer to, where you live.
Right.
Those things are going to be more nutrient packed and dense. And so you don't have to eat as many to get the same benefits. And the soil thing is just, it's a mess. Monocropping and the Industrial Revolution was the downfall of everything that was good in farming. And it's so ingrained now that it's depressing because people can't, even if a farmer wanted to not do that, they can't.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, do you want to grow organic or lose your farm?
Yeah.
They can barely keep their farm growing stuff way too fast, way too much. It's just, they can't even survive now. So even getting them to the point of even considering, they're like, no, I can't. If I wanted to, I cannot stop right now.
Yeah. There was, I'm going to completely butcher this story, but hopefully you can help kind of fill in the gaps.
I like your honesty.
Right. Yeah. I got to be honest with people. It was something along the lines of, there was this farm, relatively local farm, that they wanted to be called organic, but the USDA has to have their hand in everything. So they said like, hey, if you want to be called organic, you would have to basically pave over all of the natural soil that's here and then bring in this, what we deem natural soil, and plant on top of that. And I was like, how does that make any sense?
It may because there was something there before that it would take so many years
I
not
think
be
that's,
there.
yeah.
'Cause I think there's like a criteria. I can't remember exact amount of years, 5 years, 10 years, where you have to have a record of not using synthetic ingredients on the land. So they might have been like, well, you can wait 10 years or you can do this, and,
Right.
and what farmer can,
Yeah.
at that point, you're like, oh, well, I guess I'll try somewhere else or not be
Right.
organic, But yeah, it's a process getting certified, but it's not held up stringently.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's stories of stuff from overseas coming in where they start with at one port, they have conventional labels on them. By the time they get to another port, they have organic.
Oh, wow.
And have gone up in price. So somewhere along the line, they got injected with organic goodness.
Right.
Or there's someone crooked along the line. And there's no way to check that. There's the USDA is nobody really working for them that can check this stuff.
Right.
So that's why it's so stringent at the beginning. Because they know this is probably the last time we're going to see you for a little bit. And unless you really do something like poison somebody with something, they're like, wait a minute.
I'm going to say nothing.
Yeah. So there's slowly but surely other organizations that are doing their own certifications, like Oregon Tilth, and there's some other smaller, people that have these organizations where they have checklists of stuff and they have stringent, but it's not as expensive. And it's a little more user friendly where they understand that you just bought this place. So let's go, instead of just being organic or not organic, you can be in a state of conversion, converting organic farm. We're presently using all these things that are organic, but because the person before was using it, we have to wait this long until that phases out, which is cool. Cause if someone's doing their best to do it now, I can't, what are you going to do about 10 years ago? So that's cool. And it's good that it's strict, but they have to keep it up along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially overseas stuff coming in, that stuff, there's so much coming in that they just, they do what they want. And unless they have an audit that just happens to, flag something, you're never going to know exactly where things are coming from.
Wow.
Which is scary.
Yeah, that is. It's crazy to think of just in general as a whole. Mm-hmm. I just looked down at the clock and we've already blown by 45 minutes.
Time work.
I know, right? So since we're kind of coming up on the close of the end of the time here, I got to ask my famous last question, which is, if you could tell your younger self anything, what would it be?
Probably be, go ahead and pay for those little pieces of paper that people need to see to tell you that you know what you're doing. Because even if you know what you're doing, people don't care. And it's most people are that way. And it's, it probably would have been easier to do some things if I just had that piece of paper, and it gives a little bit of confidence for folks. So I think redoing kind of my perspective on, extended education probably would have been a little bit different, just because fight the power. I didn't care. I knew what I was doing. I worked in restaurants for 10, 20, 30 years and blah, blah, blah. But, that's good enough for me, but it's not good enough for everybody.
What I'm really hoping with that being said is that we're starting to get away from that now. I'm hoping. It seems like that, and I hope it continues, because even though I've collected a bunch of pieces of paper along the way, I don't think that's the end-all be-all by any means. And there's plenty of people that know significantly more than I do, that have a whole lot less education than I do, and there's no reason for them to be disqualified for that. So hopefully for the future generation, that's not a thing. But I completely understand, because when I was going through high school, that was really the only option we were given. It was like, hey, this is what you need. Like, if you're going to be successful, this is what you need. So I understand.
I was, we take those tests and they tell you what you're supposed to be, and I'd already been working in restaurants for, a couple of years, under the books and stuff like that. And they were like, you're going to be an accountant. I was like, I barely like school. Why would I want to go into accounting and sit? It's like, I've been, and I lived in New Jersey. So there's culinary school, 45-minute train ride north. So I was like, man, I wish they would have put 2 and 2 together back then and, gone that route.
Definitely.
Because it really wasn't a thing when I started. It was kind of like a fringe thing where people went to culinary school, stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely something I tell my son often. It's like, work hard now. Because somewhere down the line, you're not going to want to or can't.
I get that.
Your energy will run out. So hit it hard now so you can relax later on.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, I just want to say thank you for coming on.
Yes, sir.
I was actually very educated. That's why I was so quiet this time, because I'm like listening and like taking in information.
Yeah, you can see your wheels turning over there.
I feel like I've learned quite a bit. I gained a lot of wisdom from you.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for having me here. And if you have more questions or you're trying to do something, just reach out.
Yeah.
I love just jabbering about this kind of stuff and trying to figure out and troubleshooting and, you know, just learning people's stories and what they want to do with their space.
This time went by too fast, so we're going to have to bring you back on and pick your brain some more, too. So we'll have a part 2 coming up here soon, hopefully.
Well, awesome. I appreciate it, guys.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it.
So currently, where can people like reach out to you? Because you said Copper Sun. Is that your new thing that you're going towards?
Yeah, I think the Instagram, I changed it. It's kind of a personal page right now. It used to be the farm page, but it's Copper Sun Homestead.
Okay.
And that's a good jumping off point. And I can send, I think I have a website name I can send you all if you need to take a look at it. And
we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. But start there. And I think on Facebook, it's Copper Sun Micro Farm still. And one of those ways you can get in touch with me.
Perfect.
That sounds great.
Well, yeah. Thank you guys for listening. Yet again, we had a blast. Learned a little bit. Hope you did too. Thank you for coming on one more time. And cheers.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.